right, today's lesson is graphing inequalities. Our essential question is, how do I represent all of the possible solutions to an inequality? So if x is greater than or equal to 8, how are we going to represent? What does that look like on a graph for all of the possible solutions to an inequality?
So here's our first little question over on the left. What does a closed circle tell us about our solution? Not going to make much sense to us right now, but as soon as we get done with this next section, that part will start to sink in and be explained.
So we're going to go ahead and write down all this stuff to graph inequalities. We're going to use an open circle for less than or greater than, since you don't want to include the number itself.
So by open circle, we just mean a big circle at that number, but it's not going to be filled in.
We want to use a closed, filled-in circle
just so they know
for
what we're
less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, since you want to include the number itself. So if w is less than or equal to 6, because 6 would be a solution, we would fill in that, or shade in, or complete the circle.
You're just being piggy for no reason. And then your last step is you're going to shade in all of the numbers on the number line that would make your inequality true. Because remember, there's literally an infinite number of possibilities that would make each one of these inequalities true. So let's start with this first one. The first key is read it to yourself. W is less than 6. So we want numbers that are less than 6. Start with your number, and that goes right in the middle of your number line. And we're going to build ourselves a number line. Number at least 3 numbers going up, and then number at least 3 numbers counting back down. So basically we're creating a chunk of a number line. Then look at your inequality symbol. We want less than 6. So we don't actually want the number 6. We want all the numbers less than 6. So we're going to use an open circle. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You can go now.
No.
No, you go.
So we need to figure out which numbers we're shading. W is less than 6, so we want to shade to the left of 6. Make it visual so that you can see it.
So you're going to shade in a nice dark thick line, put a big arrowhead at the end, because basically all of these numbers, including if this number line were to continue on and on and on into the negatives and all those numbers, those are all solutions to this inequality. Everything less than 6.
Graphing inequalities doesn't exist if numbers are not on a number line.
All right, so we have number lines drawn for you for these couple of problems, and then we're going to talk our way through it. So you start us with this first one.
So if 13 is in the inequality, we need to put 13 in the middle of our graph. Count up a few, 13, 14, 15, 16, and count down a few, 12, 11, 10, and 9. We then need to put a circle on 13. We need to take a look at our inequality sign. If the equal sign is underneath, in this case, y is less than or equal to 13, then we're going to have to go ahead and fill in that circle because 13 is part of the solution.
Notice how Mrs. King read that to herself. She started with her variable and read it backwards. Y is less than or equal to 13.
So if y is less than or equal to 13, we are shading the infinite amount of solutions less than 13, so to the left. You confused me a little bit there.
For those of you who read it from left to right, 13 is greater than or equal to y. So if 13 is greater than y, y must be less than 13. So that's why we shaded in all the numbers to the left. Next one, g is greater than 2. So we start with our number 2 in the middle, and we count up at least 3 numbers. We count down at least 3 numbers. And yes, sometimes you're going to go into the negatives. You put your circle at 2, and then you ask yourself, do I want to fill it in or not? In this case, I only want numbers greater than 2. I don't want it to be equal to 2, so I'm going to use my open circle. But g is greater than 2, so I'm going to shade in all the numbers that are greater. And then a quick check is pick one of the numbers that you shaded in. So I shaded in the 5. Is 5 greater than 2? Yeah, that's true. So I know I shaded the correct side of my number line.
This one is another one we should start by reading it out loud. -7 is less than or equal to m, and m is greater than or equal to -7. So we're going to start counting. -7, -6. Oh, please remember our integer unit, that they get towards 0 the further the right we go. All right.
Put our circle at -7 and have to decide whether we fill it in.
M is greater than or equal to -7. That equal sign is there, so you got to shade.
That means it's okay to be equal to -7, so we're shading it in.
And then m is greater than or equal to -7, so I also know that -1 is greater than -7, so I'm going towards 0, and I want to shade towards 0.
Those negatives are where you have to be really careful to make sure you shaded the correct side of your number line.
Another question for the left-hand column, which side of the line is shaded in if you want the numbers that are less than your number?
All right, so you should have these next couple problems already drawn on your page. Our job is to go back and write the inequality that they are representing.
So we want you to start with a variable, x.
I was going to do W, and you had to go and interrupt right in the middle.
Yep. Then you got the circle, 4.
Circle's at 4, so we know it's going to be our variable in 4. Notice that it's an open circle, so they didn't want to include the number 4, so we don't want the or equal to part. But notice that they shaded in numbers less than 4, so we want x is less than 4. For some of you, you like to put the number part first, totally fine, and then your variable, but remember your inequality is going to be backwards. 4 is greater than all of these other numbers, so 4 is greater than x if you choose to do it in that direction.
Next one, x, -3. All right, we have a closed circle here, Mr. McKenzie, so I need a line underneath my inequality. And this time they are moving towards 0 and beyond, so it is greater than -3. If I were to flip this around, it'd be -3 is less than or equal to x.
And again, if you're not quite sure, pick a number, plug it in there. So a 7, is -3 less than or equal to 7? Yeah, that's true, so we know we did it correctly.
X.
I'm going to do W just to make you mad.
1.
All right.
Open circle, no line.
Open circle, so no line, but they shaded in numbers bigger than 1, so greater than 1. So W is greater than 1, or 1 is less than all of our numbers. Either way you want to write it.
Okay, let them do that.
All right. We're not going to do it all?
No.
All right. Your job to write your inequality. Pick an X or pick something else if you want to make Mrs. King mad by picking something she didn't want. Hopefully you got a 6 in there somewhere, and then you decide what inequality symbol goes in there.
We'll check it tomorrow. See you later.